Post is headed into the 6-yard box, comes back out for the follow-up. What a strike that is from Antony, the man with the golden touch.
At the start of 2024-25 season, Antony was having an absolute nightmare. 8 Premier League games, 0 goals, 0 assists. In the Europa League, same story. 4 games, nothing. His only contribution in 14 total appearances for Manchester United was a single goal in an EFL Cup match against Barnsley, which was a penalty. And this was right after what was already the worst season of his career. Last season, Antony went 31 Premier League games without a single goal or assist. He didn't score his first league goal until matchday 35 against 19th place Burnley. Let's not forget, United paid a ridiculous €95 million for him, making him one of the most expensive signings in Premier League history. The only time he actually looked anywhere near worth that price tag was during a clutch FA Cup quarterfinal against Liverpool, where he scored a crucial equalizer on the way to United's cup victory. Other than that, Antony basically became a meme. People were calling him the GOAT, ironically, throwing around jokes like 365 days in 1 year to roast his goal drought. But even with all the trolling, there was something oddly entertaining about him. Whether it was his flair, his spins, or just the sheer unpredictability of what he'd do next. Still, at the professional level, it looks like his career was going up in flames. At this point, who would even want to sign him? But just when it seemed like he'd hit rock bottom, just when everyone had written him off, Antony did the unthinkable. He turned it around. And I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but within a few weeks, Antony became one of the most in-form players on the planet. But honestly, were there ever really any doubters? After all, Antony is the GOAT. More goals and assists in 2025 than R9, Ronaldo, and Zidane combined. Okay, maybe not. But hey, the comeback is real. Okay, but seriously, what actually changed? How did Antony go from being one of the most trolled players in football to suddenly carrying a historically mid-table club toward a potential Champions League spot? Let's rewind a bit. During the January transfer window, Manchester United, for very obvious reasons, decided to send Antony out on loan to Real Betis. And in a wild twist of fate, he's now playing under none other than former Man City boss Manuel Pellegrini. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. When the move was announced, the internet had a field day. People were joking that Antony was about to show La Liga's biggest stars who the real boss was. At the time, it was just classic football banter. But who would have thought the meme was actually about to come true? Because here's the crazy part. In his first 3 La Liga matches, Antony picked up 3 Man of the Match awards. And at the time of this video, since arriving in Spain, he has twice as many goal contributions as Vinicius Jr. Read that again. Twice as many. Now, the internet is calling this the Antony effect. His sheer presence at Betis has completely changed the club's form. Before he arrived, they were sitting in 12th place in La Liga, just floating around in mid-table mediocrity. Since signing Antony, boom, Betis has rocketed up to 6th place, winning 5 games in a row. The only team in La Liga, besides Barcelona, with a perfect record in that stretch. And get this, since Antony's arrival, Betis has only lost 1 match. So yeah, you might want to start putting some respect on Antony's name. Antony might actually be the most valuable player in La Liga over the last 2 months. No, seriously, this isn't just some Twitter hype. If Betis keeps up this insane form, they could be playing in the Champions League, or at the very least, the Europa League next season. How did this happen? How did a Premier League reject suddenly turn into a beast in Spain? Has Antony finally matured as a player? Or was Manchester United just straight up cursed? Well, back when he was still dropping stinkers at United, one of his biggest flaws as a winger was his tendency to slow the game down way too much. Instead of using his actual speed to take on defenders, he would just stop, stand still, and try to dribble past them from a dead start, making his movements painfully predictable. Defenders had him figured out easily. So, is he doing anything differently at Betis? Well, yes, and no. For starters, we haven't seen that signature ball spin. You know the one. No unnecessary circus tricks. But beyond that, he's still playing like Antony. The biggest difference is that he's simplified his game. He's moving the ball faster, making quicker decisions, and most importantly, not overcomplicating things. But he's still very much the same player. He still favors his left foot, which used to be a major issue at United. Defenders knew that every time he got the ball, he'd take that extra second to shift it to his left, giving them all the time in the world to close him down. But now, he seems to be finding ways to make it work. Just look at his goal against Celta Vigo in February. He still brought the ball back onto his left foot, but this time, he made it count. And that signature move of his, cutting inside before either shooting or assisting, yeah, it's still there. In fact, that's exactly how he set up Isco's goal against Getafe. Same old Antony, just actually effective this time. Erik ten Hag needed Antony at United. He pushed hard for the signing, convincing that his former Ajax star would light up Old Trafford. But fun fact, Antony wasn't actually Ten Hag's first choice. His original plan? Bring in another one of his Ajax favorites, Frankie de Jong. Only problem, Frankie wanted nothing to do with United. And one of the reasons, the English weather. Yep, another top player dodging the Prem because of the gloomy skies. But hold on, some of you might be thinking, wait, didn't Antony play in the Netherlands? It's not exactly tropical over there. So yeah, maybe our boy is capping a little. But hey, who are we to question the GOAT when he's out here putting on masterclasses for Betis? Now, this whole situation really makes you wonder, was Antony's failure at United all mental? Because if you actually watch him at Betis, he's still doing the same stuff he did at United. The only difference? He cut out all the pointless showboating and slowed things down just enough to actually be effective. That alone makes it really hard to argue that he suddenly became a better player overnight. Of course, some people think his struggles in England weren't just mental. Analysis Ruben Amar believes that the Premier League's intensity and physicality were a huge part of why Antony flopped at Old Trafford. And let's be real, he's not wrong. The Prem is way faster and way more physical than most leagues, and Antony was never the strongest or quickest guy on the pitch. When you're going up against absolute tanks like Van Dijk or Saliba every week, it's easy to see how things can get rough. But honestly, if that's the reason, that's fine. Not every player is built for every league. Some guys just fit better in certain systems and environments. And when you look at how many players have struggled at United after being signed for ridiculous money, maybe this isn't even an Antony problem. Maybe this is just a Man United problem. Think about it. Since Sir Alex Ferguson left, United has spent a mind-blowing £1.6 billion on transfers. And what do they have to show for it? Nothing. Just one expensive flop after another. Either their scouts have no idea what they're doing, their entire footballing philosophy is broke, or, and hear me out, maybe United is just cursed. It definitely doesn't help that United's ownership and management seem to be in a constant state of chaos. 1 minute, it's the Glazers. Then, Ineos steps in. And somehow, everything is still a mess. With all that dysfunction behind the scenes, maybe it's no surprise that players struggle at United, only to suddenly thrive the moment they leave. Just look at guys like Scott McTominay or David De Gea, both cast aside only to go ball out in Italy. At the end of the day, sometimes all the player needs is a fresh start. Mo Salah and Kevin De Bruyne, complete flops at Chelsea. Now, Premier League legends. On the flip side, Martin Ødegaard just never really clicked at Real Madrid, but a move to Arsenal completely unlocked his potential. Football is weird like that. Sometimes this is not about talent, just finding the right place at the right time. And that's exactly what's happening with Antony. The guy was finished at United. Like, genuinely. It looked like he was about to get shipped off to Saudi Arabia or back to Brazil. But instead, he's flipped the script and completely revived his career at Betis. Whether you love him or hate him, you gotta respect the comeback. Not everyone has the mental strength to bounce back when the world has already written them off. So now the big question, was Antony actually a flop? Is his insane form in La Liga just temporary? Or is this proof that United was the real problem all along? Is Manchester United actually cursed? Let us know what you think in the comments.